Hello everyone, welcome to SPN Unscripted Season 2. Today we have with us Arushana Maknojia, who is pursuing her Ph.D. in Immunology and Microbiology at Baylor College of Medicine. Hi Arushana, glad to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Hi, Phil. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a great honor to be here with you.
We are really glad to have you here and know more about you. So let's start hearing about your journey, starting from schooling days up until now in PhD. If you can highlight some key achievements along the way, that would be great.
Okay. So I did pretty much my schooling, including my primary, middle, and high school back in Pakistan. I was a teen when I moved here. I did my Bachelor's of Science in Biology and my minors in Public Health at University of Houston. I took several leadership opportunities when I was doing my undergrad, including being a TA for genetics, undergraduate genetics. I was also part of Deans of Student Leadership Council, which is like a very competitive position to get in. I was an advocate of changes that students want on campus. So that is another position I took. I also got a couple papers published during that time. And after that, I also took some tutoring opportunities at American Chemical Society there. And I finished my graduation. I graduated in 2018 with a 4.0 GPA and a summa cum laude. So I was actually one of the 5 students who graduated with a perfect 4.0 GPA, and I was the only one in my department of biology and biochemistry. After that, I did a couple of internships. So my first one was at Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. I worked with Dr. Kezong Zhang on a project where we were looking at how pollution affects your metabolism, how it affects how it affects your health, including the risk of getting diabetic or the risk of getting non-alcoholic fatty liver diseases. After that, I did another research internship at National School of Tropical Medicine at Baylor College of Medicine, where I worked on understanding the mechanism of Chagas disease, which is a neglected tropical disease. And finally, I applied for several PhD schools, and I was like really blessed and humbled to get a couple of acceptance from different universities, including an Ivy League, which I think is probably one of my most proud achievements, because being a first generation college student without any resources or kind of guidance that I want from my immediate family members, just being able to get an acceptance into a renowned Ivy League, University of Pennsylvania, I was just incredibly thrilled and just blessed. So that's what I've been doing so far. So right now I'm a second year PhD student doing my PhD in Immunology and Microbiology, and I'm currently in Dr. Catherine King's lab, who is a MD, PhD, and infectious disease doctor and a scientist as well. So she has her own lab. So that's what my journey is.
Yeah, that's a really long list of achievement. That's really great.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we here at SPN face a lot of questions from students, especially coming from Pakistan, that like what scholarships can they apply to? What are easily accessible scholarships? I'm seeing here that you have quite a few yourself. Any suggestions, like what kind of tools do you use to look up the scholarships? Any advice you can give them?
So the first 2 easily accessible scholarship that I would recommend the freshmen and sophomores would be the Nizari and Pioneer. So they are the 2 banks that I think a lot of our Smiley Jamaat would know about it. So that's like 2 scholarship that I think provides about $2,500 that like incredibly help towards my overall expenses. I also looked up like on the websites of my university to see if I qualify for some kind of scholarship. So based on your GPA, sometimes based on your status. So if you are like financially not like well, or you are underrepresented, or if you fit into some of that categories, you may be able to apply. But I think the best thing would be to use the resources that are available on the campus. I'm sure each university have a student body or a department where they get like counseling, students who are international. They can go meet one-on-one with the DSO of that particular school and talk about like, these are my problems. Is there anything I could do? Is there any scholarship that I would be able to access? But I think it takes a lot from your end, like to be able to approach people, to be like proactive in trying to find these resources and just stay in network. There are so many peoples, and SPN, I think, is a very great platform to be able to connect to those people who are way ahead of you, and right now they're in your professional careers, so they have been through that. So I think just being able to know them or being able to connect with them is great. So that was
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that valuable insights. I'm pretty sure our viewers would take a lot from that. Touching upon the other aspect that you mentioned during your journey are the internships. I presume those are very key in medicine as much as it is in engineering. In engineering, we know that certain things work, like using LinkedIn, internal referrals, and all those stuff. Is it similar in medicine as well, or is it something unique that you want to highlight needs to be done in medicine in order to get such good internships?
absolutely. I think I would say both medical and for PhD schools, because originally I was a medical school student, but for some of the reasons I did not choose to pursue. But the journey, what medical schools or grad schools want is like looking at their applicants in a holistic way. So they just don't consider your GPA, but they do look at your extracurricular activities. They look at your research experiences, like research internship. They also look at your overall interest, like why you are coming. Are you driven enough? Do you have a reason to be in this field? Because medicine, I think it requires a lot of patience. Like it's a very long journey. It's not like a 1 or 2 year or 3 year you are done. Sometimes it requires 10, 15 years. And to be able to perseverance through your years requires just a lot of patience and a lot of motivation. You should have a strong, like I would say, a strong purpose that strives you every day, that wakes you up and be like, okay, I want to do this today, and I want to do this tomorrow, and I want to do this forever. So these are some of the very important things. You have to be driven. And I would say, just like how you said, the internal referrals, I think that is pretty much same. We call it the letter of recommendation, which could come from your research advisors or your academic advisors or your faculty members, but they should know you on one-on-one basis to be able to tell about your personality, to be able to tell about your interests, like, do you fit for a particular grad school or medical school? So I think they look at your overall side. Even if you feel like in certain areas you lack, if you don't have a good GPA, you shouldn't necessarily feel that I wouldn't be able to get in or shouldn't get demotivated, because there are so many other aspects that can fill up. As far as you present a whole picture to them and what you are capable of, and you are really, really driven for that particular thing, I think you would be able to get through that. So I think that's the most important thing for you to present in front of the admissions committee.
Right. That's really great. So I think you mentioned, just a follow-up question on that. You mentioned that the internal recommendations in medicine basically comes from your professors or someone you have worked with the labs.
Correct.
I presume that takes more proactive approach from your side than what we do in engineering, because we usually care about someone who's already out there working, and we just kind of have some internal referrals from there. Yeah. Just curious about how do you approach those opportunities? Like any incident you want to share about when you were proactive and that actually helped you get one of these internships or any other opportunities?
Yes. So I knew a professor back in my undergrad who had some colleagues that were working in Baylor College of Medicine. And one day I was just having this random conversation, and I was like, well, I can't decide whether I want to do a medicine or I want to do both MD, PhDs, or I just want to go for research. How do I go about deciding the way? So she was like, you have time, right now you're in your junior year, you have probably a year or more to decide what path would be right for you. I would say start with shadowing a doctor and start with an research, and you'll be able to figure out which one you want. So she got me in touch with a professor, and then I was talking about like my interests, what I want to do, and she got to know me at a personal level. So after hearing my story and after hearing my interests, she offered me to come and do a volunteering work. So that's the best way. You necessarily can't get always a paid internship. Even if you get a volunteer opportunity, take it. Get that experience, make the connections that you need out of that volunteer opportunity. You're still learning a lot. Being in lab or shadowing a doctor, you're getting all the skill sets that are required. You get to observe, you get to polish different areas where you feel you are lacking as a researcher, as a scientist, or as a physician, as a future physician. So I think that's how I got in touch. And then even after I was done with my internship, it was not like I forgot about that professor. I know that at some point I would be needing a rec letter. So I keep in touch, like to be honest, like on Christmas, I would just send a message about how are you doing? Sometime I'll stop by in Baylor and just stop by and be like, how are you doing? That's what my life have been. I'll give her or him an update about what's been going on, so they know that how you are doing. They don't feel like that, you just contacted them because you needed them, but you really generally consider them as a lifelong mentor. So you have to be in touch with them. You have to build that connection, and they are not just for like a month or year. They have to be like lifelong connection because they really serve a lot in your life. So up till now, I'm in touch with some of the professors that have wrote me recommendation letter for my PhD schools, and on timely basis, I do still contact them. So that's a key thing.
Yeah, that's really good to know. I think what I'm hearing is in medicine, you just build your network at a personal level. You just,
Yes, you do.
you know that people will stay connected because it's such a noble field, such a field that is driven by volunteering more than money, I would say, most of the time, right?
Right, correct.
Yeah. So moving to some exciting aspects about your current research, can you share a little bit more about what you are doing right now, if it's not confidential, and also what's your day-to-day work look like?
Okay. So currently I am in, as I mentioned, in Dr. Catherine King's lab. And what I'm working with is like really exciting and a very hot field of research. So you know how all of us have like gut microbiome. So basically gut microbiome is all the good bacteria that affects or shapes a person's health and disease status. And there have been research where it have shown that your gut microbiota really affects your normal blood cell production, even your brain function, and other diseases like getting diabetic or getting like cholesterol or whatever disease in general you can think of. So what our lab before I joined has found that children who are put on antibiotic treatment for 2 weeks or longer, they have seen that those children have bone marrow suppression. So their normal blood counts, which includes white blood cells, red blood cells, platelets, are lower than normal people. And our lab has particularly found that the way it happens is that when you take antibiotics, it kind of wipes out your gut microbiota. So it kills your good bacteria that are important to shape your health, and it's important for your normal development. So once those bacteria are wiped out, it in an indirect way affects your normal blood cell production. But what is unknown is that how your gut microbiome actually promotes the normal blood cell production, which we scientifically call hematopoiesis, which is basically the production of normal blood cells, which include basically everything. So what my research is right now as a thesis student is to figure out that how your gut microbiota is actually promoting the normal steady state hematopoiesis. Is it releasing certain byproducts? Does the bacteria release certain byproducts or certain metabolites that goes and signals your bone marrow cells to divide and produce those cells, or is it another way? So that's what my project is. And it is like a very, very interesting topic because it has a translational impact, something that we can take it off and take it to from the bench side to the bedside and utilize it to treat patients. So if we were able to figure out what exactly and how exactly the gut microbiome is promoting steady state hematopoiesis, we can generate that compound, or we can extract that compound, and we can administer it orally, intravenously, or whatever method, and help the children who are at risk of developing neutropenia or pancytopenia or any kind of bone marrow suppression. So it has a huge translational impact. So that's why it's a very exciting project that I'm doing right now.
Yeah, that's really good. So you mentioned a couple of diseases that you are saying would be kind of have a translational impact of your research, the outcome of your research. In the layman's term, can you provide the name of those conditions?
So one would be the neutropenia, which is like lower neutrophil counts. Another would be pancytopenia, in which a number of different cells are lower, which includes like your general leukocytes, platelets, RBC. Another thing would be a lot of like brain disorders. So there have been research that have shown that Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, some of these memory deficits, cognitive disorders also have a huge relation to your gut health. A lot of liver problems, a lot of your gut problems. So for instance, people who have like irritable bowel syndrome, they also have problems with their gut microbiota. So these are some of the diseases that potentially could be treated or could have a proper care regimen if we were able to identify the mechanisms that are driving those diseases, and we can reverse that.
That's pretty exciting. And thanks for sharing that. This leads me to the other question is, what is your inspiration for pursuing PhD in this particular topic?
Hmm. So I think my whole reason was for coming into PhD research was because of my brother. So my brother was diagnosed with leukemia. He had multiple relapses, and we did a standard chemotherapy. We did pretty much all the treatment that we could, even a bone marrow transplant, which is a very extensive treatment and probably one of the best treatment to deal with this kind of disorder. But for some reason, my brother's leukemia was just too aggressive that it did not respond. It did not respond to any of the standard treatment options. So we came here to United States. We were told about this research trial, which was CAR T cells. At that time, it was not FDA approved, but it was the only option for us. And something that we could take, because we were like, we are at the dead end, what do we do? And that's the only research trial. So we were contacted by the doctor. They're like, we'll enroll your brother, and I think your brother's a perfect fit for this. And I remember I was sitting there with my family and I was listening to the doctor, how he was telling that how incredible scientists have found this way to basically train your own immune system to go ahead in the body and actually find the cancer cells and kill it, like using your own lymphocytes, your own T cells, which is far more, if you say, is like smarter way, and I would say less toxic way than you putting a bunch of different chemotherapy agents in your body. So I was like just mesmerized that how did they come up with the idea, and how much beneficial it would be for so many children who are just like literally waiting for one last cure. So that we're like, well, I want to do something like this, because I see my brother that right now he didn't have any option. And like this research trial was just like a thing that rescued our lost hopes. So that's what brought me into research, to be able to help those kinds of families who really didn't have any option. And they're literally waiting for some kind of novel treatment to just show up and become their last hope for their loved ones. So that's how I got into research. When I looked more into it during my undergrad year, I just was like fascinated by the field of immunology and how much our bodies has to offer for ourselves and even for other, like bone marrow transplant, like a simple thing. Like I could be a transplant for someone who's like totally irrelevant of my kin or irrelevant of my family, as far as we match to a certain degree. So like thinking about that, how much we as a human being, our immune system as a human being has to offer to others, just studying about them was just like very fascinating to me. So that brought me to research. And I always knew that at some point I want to be in either cancer research or something related to bone marrow research. So this particular lab was doing a bone marrow research where kids had this side effects from long-term antibiotic, and it was suppressing their bone marrow. But how it was doing, it was through gut microbiome. It's a big story. So that's what I'm trying to basically delineate, that how does that happen? I'm trying to break down the points and trying to find an emergence point where this all meets and where it takes you forward. So that's what my biggest research. It's my brother who was the inspiration, and he wanted me to do something in this. So I'm taking forward, something that he dreamed for me, and now it's my dream.
That's quite a touching story and point of inspiration. I'm pretty sure wherever he is, he would be looking down upon you and then smiling with whatever good work that you are doing right now. And keep up the good work. We wish you all the best for that.
Thank you.
With this last question, I would like to end our talk. Basically, PhD is viewed as something which is very daunting and high commitment journey. Any advice that you would want to give students who have similar aspirations?
I think any kind of, I would say, profession requires hard work and like you being fully into it. It's not just PhD. I If you do something that you love, you won't feel like it's burden or it's daunting. Like I understand that sometimes work could be just too much, that it's hard to handle. Sometimes I have a lot in my plate and I just don't know how to manage my time. But it's like gradually I learned to do things that, okay, this is the time I should give this, one step at a time. Like I'm taking baby steps. I'm not perfect. I will never be perfect, but there's always room for improvement. So I would say that if there's something you really, really want, go for it. Try to catch your dreams. There's never a set timeline. You can start anytime you want, as far as you're driven, as far as you're supported by so many people, as far as you have resources around you, which I would say avail them, use them to your fullest capacity. And I think that's all I would like to say to the people. It's like, it's never too late. You can do it. I think anybody can do it as far as you have the right motivation and right support with you. So.
All right, sounds really good. Thank you very much for your time. This was really great talking to you. I personally had a lot to take away from this, and I hope our viewers do as well. We wish you very luck in your research and hope to see more of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.